Welcome to the Port Charles Update with your hosts, Mish and Mel.
Hello.
Hello. I just want to let you know that for the podcast today, I am wearing a Port Charles podcast sweater because I'm in my basement and it keeps me warm.
That's so nice. I do look forward to winter because there's one of our sweaters that I want to order. I really feel like we did this for us because
I know,
so
right?
we can wear our own things because I really want the Anna Banana sweater. Like I have the
Oh my,
t-shirt and I'm like, it's great. But the sweater, I think for me, it's like nicer. I kind of want to buy that. Not that I'm
you
saying
know
don't buy
what?
the t-shirt, buy whatever you guys want, but I like the sweater better.
Or you can layer it up. You know, if you're a cold Anna banana, or if you're a hot Anna banana, you have choices.
But you know what sucks? She's not bananaing too much. And I'm like,
I
damn it,
know.
Anna, live up to your name. No one's gonna buy this shirt if you're not bananaing. Jeez. Um, but she did a little bit. I can't wait to point it out. But okay, so this week just starts, okay? Look,
It does.
I don't know that if I'm the only one. I don't think I am, but I'm also glad to be back at Dex's place. Just I'm I also miss his apartment. I find it interesting writing wise, like having heard, Eden talk about when they broke up and that whole thing, and that she knew how silly it was and it didn't make a lot of sense. So it's interesting
Mhm.
how they're taking the time to actually correct course with regards to
Yes.
her attitude. I mean, at the end of the day, it fits with her sort of evolving. Like they've
Absolutely.
tried to, like, so there's just the maturing, making her a bit more grounded. I like the fact that she's been able to like own up to maybe being a little bit rigid or suddenly realizing she doesn't know everything. So it all fits, but she says something really significant that I was like, what? Like, did she really just say that? So when she was at Dex's, she sort of sets
Mhm.
up the episode and the week, by
Yes.
saying she did not believe that both would make it. And I'm like, that's weird because I feel like it's like the writers talking. You know what I mean? It was so explicit.
Yes.
It was like an audience member saying that these are like soap rules. And the fact that Joss just so explicitly in his scene just stated a soap rule, that someone may not make it. I was like, this, what's going on? I don't understand. And I think it went over my head because I couldn't really fathom that being the
Right?
case. Um, because of, all the news, Rick coming back, we all automatically assumed it would be custody over this baby.
Exactly.
And I don't
Oh,
know.
but you
Yes.
said custody over. Okay, okay, we'll dig
Yes,
into that.
you
Okay,
heard
okay.
that. Okay. Look, you don't miss a thing. You
I'll
don't miss a
listen,
thing.
girl.
You're like, I don't research, but I do listen when we talk. That's good. Um, so was it just me, or were you really taken aback about how quickly they just said it? Like there was no, like sometimes there's like a lead up, like right now. You see how I'm stalling? They do that in a soap opera where they just can't get the words out.
Okay,
Were you not
yes.
shocked how early and just how fast it was said? I kind of didn't understand.
I had to put my captions on and I rewound it 3 times because I'm like,
Because it was
no,
just
this
so
can't be
matter of
happening. Like,
fact.
exactly. It was, his tone was just, he is a doctor and he's stating fact. So I found that was like pretty accurate. And then just the calmness and the tone, but the fact that it was Monday and I didn't see it coming. I just didn't.
No, at all. Like, I mean, I honestly, I mean, look, I just thought maybe a couple more days until we heard news on the baby. But I guess at
Yeah.
the same time, too, I never kind of thought the baby wouldn't make it because as much as I use the term like soap rules before, the soap rules usually dictate that when someone's pregnant, there's multiple pregnancies at the same time, and typically
Yes.
not all babies come out of it on the other side. But here we are left with only one baby and a
Mhm.
mom. So no, I didn't think there would be no babies. I've never seen this before, the no baby
Baby
thing.
math.
But all of it feels weird and matter of fact, right? The first surrogate just said, "Hey, I'm not pregnant anymore. So sorry, goodbye." Walks out of their
Just
life.
disappeared. Yeah.
And I felt that once this news came out, it was almost like a confirmation that
Right?
we were, because it was weird for a lot of us. You had like, I mean, I think we all expected, right, that there would be a baby loss like along the way in terms of this fertility journey, right? Because we
Hmm.
kind of all expected Christina to be the surrogate. So we expected Christina to birth the baby and for there to be drama there. So we kind of anticipated a baby loss, but we never did two. But also they were so accepting of the truth. And again, just the difference in terms of like the trust they gave this complete stranger versus the one they gave Christina.
Exactly.
So I'm just fearful that at some point in time, they're just going to bump into this person with a baby.
And so many things were going through my mind at this point in time. Like when the news broke to TJ, his reaction was so contained that I almost thought that he ran away with, like, in cahoots with the doctor. They had a C-section. He was going to, like, he already had the baby. Like, I don't know how they're going to make that
I
happen.
I know, but you're not the only one. I think everybody was racking their brain because I think none of us watching could process this because I
Right.
don't think, because again, it defies the rules that one out of the two babies would have 100% survived. And given that the first one didn't, we were all banking on this. And then when it didn't, we were just like, a baby has to be alive. None of us could deal with that reality. And definitely a lot of theories that TJ did it. Hilarious if Rick had helped,
Right.
There's also, just the first surrogate, will we bump into her or will this person have a medical emergency and need TJ?
Exactly. It's going to be like a teenager by the time we find this baby.
So Christina finds out, and Molly and Christina find out together,
Yes.
and everyone else finds out separately. Someone pointed this out, but I did not go back to verify.
Okay.
So throwing this out as homework if anybody else wants to. So remember how they didn't want to know the sex of the baby?
Yes.
So someone said that when the doctor announces that the baby passed, that DJ we're not this is not Full House.
No.
That TJ had kind of said, "Oh, a girl, like my daughter," but technically they didn't know because the doctor didn't say to TJ.
Oh. Oh. See, it's
But I
weird.
don't know. I
Okay.
didn't
Okay. We
watch
don't
that
know.
part. I don't know. I didn't rewatch to know that. So again, Molly finds out with Christina. What did you think of like how they did that? Like the fact that they were separated from the news and how Molly is reacting with Christina. Like what did you think of all of it?
I loved that first scene with them together, like Molly and Christina. There was not very many words, but so many emotions, and their face acting was on point. And it was a moment of like them being on the same page of grieving this situation together. And that's the only time we see Molly process anything.
So so when I saw that, I saw how connected Molly and Christina were.
Yes.
Um, like in that moment, they might have been even more of like a we than her and TJ. Um, Frankly, I feel like the we is the Davis women and then TJ. Um,
True.
in those moments, like now that we're talking, I felt like Molly was really uncomfortable about this idea of Christina doing something for her. She doesn't like being I think in her mind the weak one, the helpless one, when it's like you're neither of those things. But when before this ever happened, Molly and Christina were bickering a lot at one point, and then there was these scenes not with this Molly, another Molly, and they were sitting in her apartment. I think it was the Molly with the broken leg, and all of a sudden we were getting scenes about Molly and Christina talking about their upbringing, and you're like, oh, okay. And then these
Yes.
were scenes where Molly kind of talks about, uh, having been the one that was there for Christina. Like they acknowledge that, like how Molly was always there for Christina and Christina just had really wanted to do this thing for her.
Mm-hmm.
And I know Molly is going through a lot and this is very painful, but it's like, even though this pain was so huge about the baby, notice how Molly immediately shifts into making Christina her priority.
Yes. Yes.
And I just feel like with Molly, she really fought against this idea of Christina being like the sister that cared for her because she's so used to it the other way around. And I almost felt
Mm-hmm.
like this is the place that Molly's most comfortable. when she was in that moment. Like that's maybe where she's more comfortable being the person to take care of rather than the other way around. And it's not to say that she's not hurting, but I also couldn't help but notice, I'm trying to understand Molly. Like Christina's on this
Mm,
journey and we're kind of watching it. We've seen in ways in which TJ's evolved, but Molly is a tricky one because she's not evolving. We are
yes.
watching her continue to struggle, right? And so it's not that I don't think she's a person that we're going to involve. I'm actually curious about her journey. I just think it's going to be a little bit slower and it's
Ooh.
worrisome, right? There's a buildup now. And so I noticed that when Molly comes out of the hospital room, she goes directly to her mom. Understandable, it's an I want your mom moment, but she doesn't go to
Yeah.
TJ. And we all thought Kristina was being really ridiculous because it is ridiculous to speculate that a couple is going to break up because of a conflict or even multiple conflicts or rough patch. But obviously, at the same time, too, when people lose a child, it's also hard there as well. As much as you want to grieve together, it's often sometimes not really the case because they it just isn't, and it can be a wedge at times. And so I just feel that like Molly does, like I know she loves TJ, but sometimes it feels like he's a bit more on the back burner.
It's so true. Like you're saying all these things, and all of these thoughts are coming to mind. So a couple of things. You're right. Molly holds everything in, and she is definitely not evolving and hasn't had the type of life experience that her sisters have had. They've always been there for her, but you're right. She's always been really protected, straight and narrow path. And that's concerning because of, remember what Alexis said about what parts of her that her daughter's got, but what if she's wrong? What if Molly's going down this path? And not that I think Alexis is right by any means, but I just mean
No.
that Molly being so contained, does that allow for the things that Alexis has done, like going towards alcohol? Like, not that I want these problems for this character, but when you are so contained and so controlled all the time, at some point that's going to come out somewhere. And while this is happening, you have TJ processing and going through his emotions. And even though he's really upset right now with Christina, I feel like she's the only person that's going to let him have his grief and understand his grief. And they're going to bond tremendously over that, which again
Oh
leaves Molly
yeah.
out in the dark, right?
I do see her being pushed out, particularly after the amount of time Christina has been saying my baby, my child, my daughter.
Yeah.
Um so okay, about Molly, no, I don't think she's gonna do anything like in terms of like ending up drinking or being an alcoholic. I think the issue is that in her house you had her sister who is like very impulsive and
Hmm.
she had to be the one to take care of her. But they also had a mom who worked a lot, and we heard Molly talk about the alcoholism, and the mom has not necessarily
Yes.
made the best choices. And remember, I mean, I don't really remember if she had Molly at the time, but like Alexis also had a breast cancer storyline, a cancer
Oh,
storyline.
yes.
So
Yes. I
it's
do
just
remember
sort
that.
of like in the family, as much as they like to talk about Christina, Alexis was equally messy. And to
Oh,
call that
yeah.
environment, there was a lot of love, but to say it was stable, like, I mean, hello, the Vulcan. Anybody remember the Vulcan and Molly solving that? Like, he was a dangerous man. And she hid. When she uncovered the identity, she hid in his office. So I'm just saying, Molly had to have a sense of control was the controlled one. Her
Yes.
perfectionism and everything is a trauma response. It's her being like in control and controlling the uncontrollable because of the chaotic environment that she lived in. And there was no space for her to have feelings because if the mom is not in a crisis, it's Christina that's in a crisis. And a lot of this doesn't really concern Sam because Sam is not the one that they really grew up with. She did show up when Molly was
True.
little, but I feel like they're doing a good job of kind of highlighting that there are some issues with regard to like Molly, Christina, Alexis, because they are the ones that grew up together. And Sam is a little bit on the outskirts of the situation, which makes total sense if you think about the dynamics as a whole. And
True.
I just think that for Molly, this journey and what I hope it is really about her learning to kind of be a bit more human and to let her guard down because while there may not have been place for emotions in the past, she's still running on that sort of reality for her and she's not letting it out. And I think that makes sense because she's never had experience doing it and there's never been room. Like, look at how TJ's
Right.
received by Stella, by his mom. Like, they're making space. Like, the mom is worried and she made space for his anger. That's a tough one for people.
That's
And so
true.
to at the hospital live in that moment to be like, TJ, just tell me, just say what's going on. And like, I'm sorry, but in Molly's life experience,
Hmm.
she's never really had that space or kind of taught or had the, I guess, same experience. And then these really huge things happen to her. And it's almost like she's a baby because she hasn't really
Yes.
had this, because technically she has room now to kind of process, and everyone's expecting her to, but she's like, but I've never learned how. And all of a sudden
Right?
everyone's like, have a feeling. She's like, but my body is programmed not to. My body is programmed to ninja them all away, and everybody has
Yeah.
these different expectations. So for me, it's about Molly actually getting to learn herself, basically, because Molly never grieved. Like, she had the first baby loss, and then she
True.
focused on the baby project, just having another baby. What is the solution? Because she says it, she's very black and white, and she's very solution focused, and she wanted a solution to not having a baby. And now that another baby loss has happened, her mission now, like, I mean, the fact that she got ready, she was ready to go back to work, she's going to bury herself in work. And
Yes.
there's a couple things that I wonder, and it's not that Molly is not hurting. She is grieving. She said it. She doesn't want to be there when the physical items are removed, and nor should she have to do something like that. But she's also using that to hide entirely, right? It's She's
Yes.
not saying I don't want to be a part of that and this is what I'm comfortable with. She's not comfortable with that, but she's not willing to share anything about anything at all. Like, what she is comfortable with, nothing. She just wants, there's a whole wall up and she doesn't want anyone to cross it. And now, like, those scenes with Ava, like, what did you think? They were insanely compelling.
Ava is amazing. Like, she turns the story way better than Nina. Because Nina tries to switch the narrative, but Ava truly makes you believe what she's saying. She really knows how to hit all the different emotions. Like when she tried to play chase, and I felt like he was gonna fall for it. But I just loved how I mean, she's scared, one. She knows her position and she knows how to tell a story.
She does know how to tell a story, and she uses the facts and manipulates. She's very good
Yes.
at it. And it was incredible watching her, let's say, with a Trina, with a Kate, with Jason. Like, the narrative kept changing and she really knows her audience. But when Molly showed up and chose to read
Yes.
the autopsy, I was stunned. Like, that was definitely a very stunning moment.
It was definitely like one of our big gold stars to that moment because it was unexpected. Like we said, we didn't know how Molly was going to handle her feelings, if she was actually going to work. And when you see her go there and Dex is standing there to boot,
I
it
know.
was such an intense, incredible scene.
So the thing with Molly, did you notice that scene? She only got one of these in because she corrected Ava and said, "My baby."
Yes. Yes,
So
I
so
did.
this is what I'm thinking. Again, I do believe Molly is grieving, and I believe she had a plan for that child and she was anxious to have that child. But I can also see Molly being okay working. I can see Molly, like, let's just, like, because this is a tragedy, and I can see Molly making a decision to just move on and not touch this topic again.
Do you feel it's compartmentalizing or focusing on work as her way of dealing?
I think Molly might just, again, very black and white. And I wonder, this is a lot, but I feel like it's possible, like, on the outside, she would be like, no, like, we're done, whatever. Like, and that's part of her protecting herself. I think
Hmm.
realistically, like, if she were to decide to have a child, she would have to grieve first, right? So she'd have to be truly in touch with herself to then be able to say what she really, really wants. Because, and it's not to say she never wanted a baby, but there's just a lot. Like, I think she needs to slow down and really think things through. But I kind of wonder, because you know when we say she's getting, like, pushed out, and I wonder
Yes.
if she's gonna feel very pushed out by TJ's really big feelings. Like, right now, Alexis is doing a really great job supporting Christina. Like,
Yeah.
Alexis, Michael, Sonny, no, not one person has. I mean, again, it's kind of, it would be weird to do it, but the reality is not one person is saying like it was Molly's baby. Like, everyone is sort of going with this, everyone's going with this and understanding, and it's explicit. Christine is being very clear that she was the mother. It was her child in every sense of the word. And right now, this is
Yes.
happening in isolation.
Hmm.
And we saw that scene, right? A little hint, Alexis supporting Kristina mainly, but then giving that phone call, "Hey, Molly, thinking of you."
Yeah.
And she already feels so many things about physically not being able to carry a baby. But how confusing is this? She's also not the one to have physically experienced the loss. I don't know what that's doing to her. Like, there's her grief, but then everybody, like, but Christina's the one in the hospital. And I wonder if that's going to be even worse, because for a person who compartmentalizes a lot, I wonder if she's going to feel that there is no space for her to grieve anything. It's not entirely true,
Oof.
right? Her family would make space, TJ would
Hmm.
make space, but I'm worried about that. Like, I'm worried about her taking all of that and twisting it and being like, there's nothing to grieve. It's over. And that's like, and she just sort of like makes it so small and just continues on in this sort of robotic way, which is again just her protecting herself from the pain, and again pain she didn't feel before.
Yes. Oof. She's got a journey ahead of her, and I'm really interested to see how they're going to have her handle it.
Yeah, so kind of like for a long time I had my eye on Christina's journey, because I thought it was going to be one in which she gives away the baby, or and kind of like watching her deal with the aftermath. So that's what I thought was going to happen, and I was like, I really hope we don't let go of this and we continue to follow Kristina on this journey of having been pregnant, had the baby, given it away, done this gesture, and finding a way to have this aunt relationship with the baby. But now that everything is this way, my eye is
Yeah.
more on Molly's journey in all of this, because it's getting really complicated and messy. Um, because I do think Christina and TJ will end up coming together. He is really angry, but that's the
Hmm.
thing. I was like, will he put his anger down when he sees that he finally has someone to grieve with, because she's the only person who seems to be feeling it as deeply as him, and she has all this information that he doesn't have, right? When she was in the room saying, I know everything, I know when she kicked and when she did
Yes.
this. So it's like I can see TJ wanting pieces of her and wanting pieces of his daughter in that way. I can see him wanting that, whereas like Molly would never want to hear that, well, not now anyway.
Exactly. I
So
agree.
so this is even worse. Like, we talked about like a custody, and I feel like I feel for Molly, because I feel like this is even worse. Like Christina was worried, like, what say would Molly have in a custody because she's not like biologically connected. But I'm like, dude, people adopt. That would make
Right?
Molly legally the mom. So in this situation, I just can't even fathom like Molly at this point in terms of the grieving process. Like, it's hard. It's so hard. Like, how how in this moment can she grieve her child? Like, if you think about the scenes with Christina, like, how?
I know, right? Oh my God.
So I find that's a huge thing. So I just felt like maybe his anger would subside in that way. But TJ is really angry, and his anger is directed at Christina, while Molly had her anger directed at Sonny.
That was intense. Like, I mean, it was the catalyst to so many other things that happened this week. And that's the only time we've actually seen her emote that much.
Yeah, but also what I noticed is how the thing is like, this is finally her moment with TJ. It's like their first hug, and it's interrupted
Yes.
so she can step in and protect Christina. So
Ooh, I'm gonna have
certain
to
things
rewatch.
here that I
Hmm.
feel are kind of true, when TJ had said like Molly's blinded by her love for Christina. I wasn't seeing it, because last week I was saying I think TJ's blinded by his love for Molly. But I'm
Yes.
seeing it now, and then like Christina's nonsense of like, they're gonna break up, they're gonna break up. I'm like, chill, chill. They're having a rough time. But now I think it was repeated so many times,
Yeah.
because that may very well be the case. Not that I know what it really truly means in the grand scheme of things. Because, like, another thing that I thought would happen through this storyline is legitimizing Christina. Like, I thought that while there's this baby loss, and like she said, I'm changed. I know what it is to be a mother and to love fiercely. Like, she knows all of these things now. But I guess
Yeah.
for me, I felt like she's having her own experience, but I also thought this storyline would shift how everyone else sees Christina, because the way they would talk about her and act about her, I thought this story was also to kind of legitimize her and have people catch up to who Kristina is now and not the caricature of her that they carry in their mind. So that's also something I thought was going to happen.
Mhm.
And so when we found out that the baby was gone, it was hard to know because it's like Ava's dealing with all the legal issues. Kristina is awake. So we're like, okay, well, Kristina would like attest to what happened. Like she wasn't pushed. And so that was confusing. So then at the end of the episode, when she kind of
Yes.
crashes and Alexis goes to find someone, I'm thinking, well, this makes sense because if we want to put Ava away, you can't have Kristina waking up with the story. But then she wakes up again. And then it occurs to me, if Kristina is so hurt and
Oh yeah.
she's been on this obsession with Ava for like a long time now,
Long.
and I'm like, "Oh no. Oh no." She's and like and the pictures only confirmed it. Yes, she
I
wanted the pictures,
know.
her baby and her, but I'm like she wants the pictures to study a narrative that would match that.
Exactly. Because we all saw it. Like we know the scene. She just kind of later, but there's one picture that I'm like, I didn't see that in the scene, or I mean, I
What
didn't do any
part?
research. When she had her hand on her shoulder, because when we saw her, she touched her arm in the scene, and then Christina pulled away.
That was the final scene, but they were talking before that, right?
Yes.
So like so for me, I'm easily influenced. So when I see those pictures, I'm like 100% I remember. I feel like I was there. So we'd have to rewatch, but they also had a
You're a
whole
terrible witness.
yes, 100%. So like I think that I have a story. I'm not gonna
Do
but
it. Do
it
it.
proved
Oh.
exactly what you just said. So okay, so on my lunch I go take walks and I can walk up quite high and there's quite a view. And so one day I sort of took a route, popped out next to someone's house. So like whatever. Maybe it was a private route. Who knows? But I ended up being really high. Like I'm in this neighborhood and it's very, very high. The view high. I'm panicked. I'm like airplane scared at this point, like afraid of heights. And I remember telling people, oh my God, I was like kind of freaked out because I first of all I didn't really know where I was. I'm on my lunch now. I really do have to get back to work. And I see how high I am. And I remember telling people, oh gosh, and the sidewalks were so tiny up there. I found exactly where I was because I've walked there more frequently now. And I found a route
Yes.
that didn't involve me going into a private area accidentally, air quotes. So I walked back and I realized none of the sidewalks are smaller than average. I'm like, I was actually that frightened that I remember the
Aw.
sidewalks being so tiny. So 100% I would be a terrible witness. So back to
I
I'm
love it.
like,
It's like it was miniature sidewalk. Sorry, I was just picturing in my head you kind of
I
tippy toeing on this
was
miniature sidewalk.
convinced and I'm like, I have to find this place with the tiny sidewalks, guys. I'm like, the place was so fancy, the sidewalks were tiny, and I realized that is not accurate whatsoever. But yeah, so it looks like Kristina is going to just basically get her version of justice. And you notice Sonny didn't say there's evidence that she pushed you. He goes, there's evidence that she put hands on you.
Ooh, I did not catch that.
Because she hasn't explicitly given her version to anyone.
No, she's just
And so
listening.
she has the luxury of the facts. So can you imagine? Because like this is insane to me because Ava did not, well, she only did at the end, swapped his pills because his pills were never full-blown placebos. She did that. But it
Yes.
was funny to me because I'm like, this is terrible, right? Because it's like she didn't actually push Kristina. Her whole story was just ridiculous.
Right.
Did you notice they made a change in terms of like how the PCPD handles things?
No, tell me. I
Did
didn't
you
read their new guidebook.
So the new guidebook dictates that everyone in law enforcement should know boundaries. So Dante got pulled, and then later when
Yes.
Jordan was like, "Tell me what happened," he's like, "Well, if I can know, you can know." I think that was like Mr. Baby Lala, like he was just being like, "If I can," but he hid it under the guise of like, "We now have boundaries in Port Charles." I don't know if you heard, but that's what we're doing.
I did notice that part where it was like when Jordan wanted the info, I was like, wow, like, but like everybody's related. Everybody knows information they shouldn't have. Like, it's just part of the town.
But even I was like, why don't you like Jordan is just gonna call her favorite boundary breaker, Anna, and Anna's gonna tell her
Exactly.
everything she needs
She's
to
gonna
know.
be like, she's gonna use Anna's method against her. Tell me. tell me.
Just
I want
tell
you
me
to
now. and so another thing. So Jason was the one who broke Brick down. He was like, just
Oh
give him
my
to
God,
me.
that's so cute. Like, it's me, it's Jason. Okay. It was
And
the
he's like,
cutest
is
scene.
it good enough for me? And so like when he went to Anna, I thought that was hilarious because, he gave it to her and said, I trust you to do the right thing. And I'm like, he literally just
It's such
spoke
a
to her the same
test.
way you talk to a kid, you're guilting
Yep.
into good behavior. I know you're not going to touch that tablet, not until you finish your chores. Like that's literally how he spoke to her. And she's like, I think I can do it. I think I can make it
Well, he
happen.
stayed
But
to
like,
monitor her. Like, he kept an eye
yes,
very close.
yes, yes. But
I
something
trust you this far away.
I trust you 3 feet. That's the good term.
That's about
How
it.
much do you trust me? 3 feet. Not out of my sight trust. In the same room or separate rooms with a window trust. That's what they have now. And there was one little detail. Trust is in
Yes.
distance. It's not in anything. It's a measuring stick. Like how big is this? It's about 3 trusts, I think. Is how much. My house is like about 3 trusts, I think. That's
Yeah,
how
I
big
think
it
so.
is. But one thing that I thought was interesting, but they didn't really like highlight it, is the fact that Anna's working on a case where a Jerome was responsible for a child's death, like an unborn child, because that's what happened to Anna. That's why she hated Julian, because she miscarried because of him.
Wait, who
Her
miscarried
her
because of him?
baby Anna, her baby with
Oh.
the guy she tangos with. What's his name?
Oh, I know who it is. I can picture him.
Me too. Can everyone
And
else? That's all close their eyes.
We'll find a picture if you're not picturing what we're
What's his
picturing.
name?
It starts with a D.
Anna
You know what? I'm gonna do quick Google,
Tango
maybe.
GH. Duke. You're right.
Duke is
This is the first time we've researched everybody, and we did it live, not live.
live.
Like we're live talking to each other. We're recorded when you hear us. Anyways, so ta-da! You're welcome. This episode. Okay. So things are going down. Ava, her face when she saw those photos was hilarious. She's like, crap. Like she knew. She's like, there's really nothing anyone can say because what am I supposed to say? Look, I lied. She didn't trip over shoes. She tripled. She tripled. She tripped over the duffel.
It was so the shoes. Everybody was freaked out about the shoes, but still the duffel made sense. What is wrong with the Metro Court windows? Like I agree with Nina. Like, what's wrong with the windows?
None of the science works in all of this. And so but I love how they're pointing it out because Carly and a bunch of people were like, well, how hard would you have to push someone for them to fall
Right?
out a window? I'm like, well, can someone answer the question? Because it happened. Like everyone's questioning how plausible this all is, but it happened.
Exactly.
And I'm starting to think Joss never learned that Kristina lost the baby because she didn't hear it from Dex.
Oh,
And then we
right.
know she didn't. Then she goes to talk to her mom. And then they end up talking about Dex.
Right. Shoot. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. She's already like really
I don't
freaked
know
out
if she
about
knows.
everything.
I have
I don't
no
think she
idea.
knows.
Well, everybody else knows, and it's kind of weird that she doesn't. So again, Molly loses it on Sonny, and I was like, he's been yelled at a lot in hospitals because of the
Yeah.
people that have gotten hurt, and I was like, damn. So I mean, look, I love that scene. Molly was like really impressive, and then they montaged all the people who have like yelled at him. So I thought the montage was interesting. First of all, Michael is not included in the montage. And
Huh.
Joss was because it's like it really bugged him that Joss.
It really did, honestly.
And then Anna was included in the montage. I think she just
I know. I was like,
represented the
why?
town. She represented like her and Laura. But they should have added Laura in there too.
They should have.
But anyway, so they would like that's pretty rough. So it was a montage of all these people yelling at him, and I didn't know what to expect. Right when they showed the roof and they showed someone's feet, I'm like, what is going on? And then when I saw Sonny, and
Right?
I'm like, no, 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 this is like really bad. And also just production wise, the fact that they showed the street.
Yes. Okay, wait, why?
because they never do that. They really just
Oh
show the
yeah,
roof.
yeah.
Like they didn't do that like when they did the Morgan scene. So that's all I
Okay.
kept thinking was that this is interesting. So we knew that they had made the decision to bring Morgan back. A lot of people assumed that he would somehow be a vision to Sonny, but the way that they did that whole thing was crazy. I loved it. It's the fact that they wouldn't show Morgan. They kept showing different angles to show us that like you can't see him
Hmm.
and he would only appear in some scenes. Did you know that? So sometimes Sunny is talking to no one, and then
Yes, yes.
sometimes you see him. So I kind of liked how they did it. Um, so this is a thing, right? Presumably, oh my god, I can't believe I said that word. I'm messing it up. Um, Morgan is dead. So if we see him in a vision, one way to interpret that is, hey, Ghost Morgan is visiting. What I thought was strange
Oh, hmm,
was that
hmm.
Ghost Morgan didn't visit Kristina like at the end, or like there was a scene where like Carly was holding Donna and it was maybe right after a Sunny scene. And I just assumed that like he would stand there or she would shiver or something. And then Jason had the most
Yes.
interesting line when
Yes.
he
Thank
spoke
you.
to Sunny. And rather than it being like, yeah, that was Morgan that came to you and saved you, he was like, I think there was a part of you that knew something was off. So they were really careful to in no way show Morgan like a ghost. And even visually, they made it more of like part of Sunny's episode because he was like, I know you're not real. And so they really made it like they didn't do the ghost thing like they did with BJ.
That's true. That's true.
So I definitely think there's a future there for Morgan. And I just have to say, like, we were all complaining, like, oh, he's coming back for one day. And it does suck that knowing he was only coming back for a day. But when they showed him, oh, I didn't realize how much I miss
Oh,
Morgan. Of course, we whine and want him on the show, but
yes.
to feel it, like I felt it, like I felt his absence. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I really miss him on the show. Like I really miss him on the show, those scenes together and just flashing back cuz also that was an interesting choice. Like knowing that this was a parallel to a
Hmm.
moment Sonny tried to help Morgan on the roof when he wanted to
Yeah.
jump. So I
Yes.
think that whole decision was really interesting calling on that time um and just the conversation because in my head it was Ghost Morgan at first and I liked hearing Morgan's version of what Sonny was saying. Sonny's in a dark place and his perspective is narrowed. And I not only did I like, Morgan there trying to fight for his dad, but also just hearing Morgan just generally his version of how he sees his dad.
So the whole debate of like ghost, non-ghost, yes. Okay, one, I totally felt the same way as you when I saw Morgan. I got goosebumps, and just he's just such a great actor, and their scene together deserves an Emmy. There, it was absolutely incredible. But the things that Sunny were saying and the things that Morgan were saying, I feel like Morgan would have been like a little bit more shocked with the information that was being presented to him if he was actually a ghost. I feel like there would have been more reaction to the fact of like Kristina having a baby or like Joss being, or just the stuff they were talking about. I feel like we would have got more actual Morgan vibes than this apparition based on a place in Sunny's brain of what Morgan would say.
Okay, I see what you're saying because you're
Okay.
making me no, because you're making me think about a ghost scene between Robin and Stone. So
Okay.
one time the person that her husband had an affair with like locked her underground. And so she was trapped and she had imagined Stone. And I remember that conversation. It was maybe more along the lines like I'm not saying he was shocked at certain things, but it was definitely old friends catching up and keeping her
Okay.
going. So I feel like that had a bit more of a flavor of like the ghost coming back compared to like maybe how you felt about Morgan, that you felt it would be more like connected, like this is what's going on, or I've seen this, like more connectedness. But no, I still think the scenes were phenomenal, but I get it. It's
Oh
not
yeah.
that ghosty vibe because they do that. They have done that.
Exactly.
And you know how they kept talking about Sunny's instincts?
Yes.
I will say this. When I was searching like the Rick scenes of when he took Carly,
Yeah.
There 100% was a time where Sonny had strong instincts. And if you want to go back to a time, it's during those kidnapping episodes, because he's in the room and him and Carly are very connected, and he's like, I feel her here. And Jason's
Oh.
there with him being like, well, your instinct, and they talk about his instincts there too. And his instincts told him that Rick had something to do with it. So there was a time where his instincts were more spot on. And there was definitely this like reconciliation around Sonny, Jason, even Carly. At one point, Carly says to Jason, like he's like more himself, or he's coming back to us. But Jason didn't have that same happy or maybe
Yes.
believing face. And so this is what I wonder. Are they,
Mm-hmm.
on the one hand, putting this trio and dynamics back together as it
Mm-hmm.
was, and all that entails? Or is
Uh-huh.
this putting the bonds back together, but differently?
Okay, I'm going with the second one because Jason, I don't think it's that he didn't believe it. I felt like he looked a little bit sad because there's always been this dynamic of he has to stay away from Carly with his heart if Sonny's involved. But with Sonny being back on his meds and potentially getting his life back into perspective and focusing on his kids, he's going to find that place where he's going to say, I love you both and I'm okay if you're together. Like they need some sort of like, Jason's going to need some sort of like permission for the dynamic for them to be this trio, but for him to have the okay to be with Carly.
Well, in front of Sonny's face at the hospital, he said, Carly, can I take you home? Like they made a show of showing
Yeah.
their togetherness. So also something, it was interesting the twist of how they decided to unveil the other half of the information. So Sonny has those intense scenes on the roof, and my gosh,
Mm-hmm.
my heart dropped when they go back and the roof was empty.
I know. I
I was
know.
like, oh my gosh. And then we saw him walk to see Kevin. I was so happy. And so then we only got, so when we continue and it's in a following day, we learn a couple of things. We learned that he had a blood test. We learned that he's now on medication. And then they're having a conversation about whether or not he was actually taking his pills. So in those moments, Sonny doesn't even go get them or count them or decide
I
to even show
know.
them. It's just all verbal at this point. So half the info was there. And then the other half showed up. And I was like, okay, well, that's definitely an interesting way to like cut to the chase, and they used Donna to do
Yeah.
it. What'd you think of that?
That's that was such an interesting way because like you said, everything was just unsoapy this week, but yet being soapy. So that is not a typical way for a big unveiling to happen in a circumstance like this. Like it would be a bigger Sunny moment or something that would be like so chaotic and but that and the way they she hugged Joss and was like, do you want some more vitamins? Like my heart, like I even knew it was placebos, but I was like, oh my God. And the way they did all of that was fantastic. I loved it. But yeah.
I was just shocked that they were doing it that way. I was just
Right?
surprised that that was the way that they were doing it. And then when Joss handed the pills over to Elizabeth, you knew for sure the pills were going to get tested.
Yes.
So I thought it was like cute, but it was clear that they wanted the information up because they wanted a lot of things stacked against Ava. So we're moving forward in that
Exactly.
sense of just stacking things in one direction. And Ava is something. I loved when Kate's finally gets to her. I love how she pulled him in and made this a we problem. She's like, it
Yes.
was your duffel bag she tripped over, but don't worry, I hid it. Nobody knows it was you that did all of this. And then she's like, and the meds, you're gonna find out. And then you knew, and I knew, and you're
You
involved.
knew.
And you did this. And I'm like, so he's just gonna put the pharmacist in witness protection or tell him that at the very least.
I think tell him that at the very least, but don't really do it.
Like
Because
this
what power
guy
does
is
he
gonna
have?
he's gonna lose his badge like 100%. He had this talk with Anna and he's like, Anna, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, actually, this is one of the times where she's correct in everything that
Right?
she's saying. But Kevin, what is your deal? So all of a sudden, Kevin's busy. Now all the town is his
I
patient
see
because of all
visions.
the drama. And then he goes to see Ava and goes, don't worry about Sonny being with your daughter. He's absolutely fine because he's one of my patients and he's stabilized. Oops, I've said too much. Let me walk away and shout really loudly about Sonny's pills.
Sound
And
noise was working.
I was like, what is the matter with you?
That part was really weird, and I didn't understand why it needed to be done, to be honest.
Again, it's just stacking everything against Ava, right? It's having everything hit her all at once, having them learn everything about her all at once. And I have to say it was silly, but I actually liked the shenanigans and how they did it. So the way they used Donna and the way like how that came out because it was unexpected, and even Kevin.
Yes.
So dropping all those nuggets because I think it's about to go down, and I think they're setting the stage for Rick.
Yes. Okay, so do we think Rick is going to be a lawyer in this whole case with Ava?
Yeah.
I like the build up
Um,
there. Yeah. Okay.
wait, I don't know, right? Because Ava would be the one to need a lawyer, and the lawyer to do it would have to be like somebody
Scott.
who works at the PCPD, right? But like, so what? Rick comes in, like he doesn't work with the district attorney's office
No.
unless
No.
they
Maybe he's
call
getting a
you.
transfer.
But it has to be that. Like, what else could it be? Like, unless there's like a separate custody case with the other person, but I don't know. Like, this looks to be the main thing. Or maybe he's just there as support, but I doubt that. I doubt that. Rick can't be there without it being like way more dramatic. Okay, so I want to talk a bit about TJ. So we've talked a lot about Christina and Molly, but like TJ had that moment with his family where they all showed up to support him.
That was so amazing. Sometimes I forget that Curtis is in his circle.
I was actually wondering at what point is someone going to tell Curtis, but also, so the fact is, Trina went to go visit Ava and to confirm to apologize because she doesn't know the whole story. And
Yes.
then I'm thinking, okay, like Trina's somewhat, it's like it's the baby's her family too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't think that part has been acknowledged, right? In terms of the sticky
Mm-hmm.
situation that Trina finds herself. But in terms of like the family showing up for TJ and giving him, that place. And you know how much I love Jordan. Like she's so
Oh my
stoic,
gosh.
you
And in
know,
her
like
casual clothes, I was just in awe.
I love her. And so like even at the hospital, right? She kept it together for TJ and I was happy that he had her. Everybody was
Mhm.
really falling apart, but like Jordan really, she was Jordan and she held it together. They were there trying their best to support him, but there was a couple of moments that really stood out for me when Jordan kind of lost it and kind of expressed her frustration about Molly not being there. Because that's
Yes.
human, right? You're kind of like, what the hell is going on? And then her and Curtis, like, first of all, she finally lets it out.
Yeah.
And then she has a moment with Curtis.
Hmm.
And I believe it's the same episode in which Trina and Portia are having a conversation about Ava.
Hmm.
And it was an opportunity for Portia to be like, wait a second, I have an opinion and you should have the same one, and I need to argue with you so you can see things like I do because everything is pretty black and white, and I don't understand, Trina, why you keep looking at things from different angles. It's stupid. It pisses me off. But then I thought of all
Hmm.
people to say this
Hmm.
line, Portia, and remember, they're talking about Ava, right? They're talking about
Yes.
Ava, and then her response to Trina, well, good people also do bad things.
It was so, so perfect. And I even think the timing of the scenes, I know you made a post on it as well,
Hmm.
but I'm just like, yep, something is either gonna like happen. It applies to a couple of people, but specifically in Portia's circle, it's a Curtis and Jordan situation.
For sure. I didn't think those two would circle back, but
Right?
I just think that like Curtis already made peace with the Heather situation. Like he's Trina's dad. And he does not feel as compelled. Of course, Portia wants to protect her child, but again,
Yes, of
she's being a
course.
little obsessive. And
Yes, very
Trina
much.
Trina is not careless. And I don't think she's being flippant, being like, I don't know. Like she lived it all. So okay, so Heather comes into the picture. So now this week, like Trina's just on like a convict tour. She's visiting Ava. She's going to see
What's
Heather.
that
And
song?
and Portia's like, stop it, stop it, stop it. But I thought it was funny because I'm like, I'm seeing what I'm seeing, correct? Because I'm watching Trina and I'm watching how she's looking at her mother when Heather comes in. Like she
Oh yeah.
steps in between. Like Trina's like, ew, what are you doing? Like she was looking at her like she's
So
nuts.
embarrassing.
And it's like, for Heather to be right there and for Portia to be the most unstable one is saying a lot because Trina's supposedly scared, right? Because Portia's running around telling anybody who would listen, I have to protect my daughter. It's the only way for her to kind of be safe and be okay. And there's Trina being like, what are you doing? Like, I'm fine. And it's like she's worried about how her mom is acting given her like status in the hospital and also the
Yes.
reality that like there's currently no present danger, and she's like, she's escaped before. And she's like, okay. Like Trina was like, but like Trina took things to a deeper level, saying, like, I'm not going to let myself be consumed by fear.
Yeah, I liked when she
And
said
I'm
that.
not going to hold on to this anger. But that's exactly what Portia's doing. She's holding on to all of this fear and
Hmm.
she is turning it into an obsession, and that already there's a divide where she doesn't really, she's no longer in the same place and same page as like Trina or Curtis, right? Because even at one point Curtis and Trina were bonding so much and Portia was on the outs, and she's going to be even more on the outs because if she goes for a crusade, like, not only was Curtis just sort of not having sharing the same opinion, like he really believes Heather has changed, it doesn't mean he thinks it's okay, but he also thinks Trina's not in danger, but he also
Yes.
has TJ to think about and everything that's going on there. And if a court date is set and Ava's going to trial, that's going to be a lot more happening in terms of like the Ashfords and like TJ and wanting to be present and to support, and like Trina too. So I just think that they're in different places. Like the fact that she had a mature conversation with Heather, she set her limits, but she gave Heather a chance to share her piece. And she said a
Hmm.
few significant things to kind of contrast the rigidity of Portia and the more flexible thinking of Trina by saying things like, I want justice to happen, whatever that looks like, and I want peace. So she's allowing herself to wish for safety, for justice, for peace,
Hmm.
all of these things, but however that looks, and not for it to look the way that she wants it to look. Whereas Portia has a fixed idea of what justice looks like, and she's going to be disappointed because she's going to try, like, the more things don't go as she wants, the more fixated she's going to be on correcting that course, and the more obsessed she's going to be. And she's really going to lose it.
She is though, because we saw that happening with Spencer, and she was going down a path, and then everything happened on the boat, and then she still has all this pent up stuff happening. I feel like with Curtis, it's just like a pretty little masking it over. They're better, but they're not better as a couple. And then here you
No.
have Heather and
Hmm.
another place and another outlet, and exactly that. She really hasn't let the insanity all out yet.
No, and like, and the way she lashed out at Felicia, I did not appreciate
Oof.
that. And I mean, she brought up
No.
Ryan, and I'm not gonna lie, I was like, okay, that's pretty decent of
Pretty
like an
good.
argument to make. But at the same time, I don't think there's a single person who doesn't understand where Portia's coming from. However, she's
Yeah.
holding on to it so tightly and strongly. And I think, of
Hmm.
course, Felicia can understand, but Felicia has a job. And as much as, like, even let's say as Laura, like, as much as Laura understands where you're coming from and also cares about Trina, the point is she just has different feelings than you. It doesn't mean she doesn't understand
Yes.
them, but like Portia only has her version and that's it. But that's life, you know. We're all gonna end up on different sides of things. And of course I could totally understand how you're feeling, but I'm not in that situation. Like I'm not personally feeling that. So there's room for me to feel differently. Like it's just not so simple and black and white. It's not that any of these people don't feel for you or agree with your feelings. And no one is getting in the way of you doing what you need to do. They just kind of are agreeing to disagree. But I think Portia is not able to do that, and she won't rest until people see it the way that she does.
Well, it's the same thing like when she hid Trina. It was very valid for her and what she did. Her world is very black and white, even though she did a very great thing.
When she, oh yeah, when she hid, I'm like, where did she hide her? And I was like, oh, you meant the DNA thing. I was like, when did she do that? But even yelling at the staff, she's like telling the nurse, like, do not coddle her. This isn't a spa. And I'm like, I'm sorry. What nurse on staff is going to see, like, whether you know Heather or not? Like, she's coming
Yes.
in as a prisoner. Tell me who has the instincts to kind of coddle or treat people like they're in a day spa at the hospital. Like, they're all professionals, much less when you see somebody coming in with the orange jumpsuit. And just the way that she was, I kind of wish that Stella was around.
Yes.
And there's another question I have for you too. Like when the advocate went to go see Christina, it's interesting for me because you have Felicia and you also have Stella. And I kind of wonder, I'm like, it's interesting because you could have went either way, right? Like Stella had just been comforting TJ and is aware,
Hmm.
and she could have been there and stayed with Kristina. Just knowing that could have maybe helped, let's say, bridge the gap. But then you have Felicia who actually did lose a child and is standing in front of you offering support too. So it was like, it was so interesting. And I was like, I don't know. I don't know. Because they're both interesting choices.
Well, following the new PCPD rules, maybe it just wasn't the right thing to have family
I
handle it in the
agree.
room. But I do love exactly that. When I saw Felicia, I was like, wow, this is pretty big because this is like a storyline that happened a really long time ago. They touch on it, every now and then. It is incredibly significant. And she has this person who completely understands the way she feels. Like, I thought it was a
Yeah.
really important role for her.
It was, and I don't know that Christina can even realize or even knows that in the moment. But then there's also
Yes.
Michael who wants to offer up Willow to have a talk. And it's just
Mm,
really
mm.
interesting because Willow and Christina have an have a very specific relationship, right? Like they were strangers and Willow had to talk to her about Donna Day. And now here Christina is going another
Oof.
very significant time in her life. And once again, it's Willow coming in to try to connect with her on shared experiences.
I didn't even think about Dawn of Day. That is wild.
So, yeah, I thought that was interesting. But yeah, like it is a big deal. And I think there's a huge shift in supporting Christina. And I'm curious to know how this is going to be received when it's more widely said and put out there, you know, how Christina sees herself in relation to the baby, which is normal,
Oh,
but it's just, now
yes.
that it's validated, right? Like this is the whole thing Molly was fighting over, and it's very, very messy. And like we said earlier, like TJ was alone at the house dealing with things, and his scenes were incredible when he was finally left alone and letting things out and allowing it to come. And then Molly showed up.
And sound noise was not working. Like, I felt he was really letting out his feelings, and she touched the door and she heard nothing and she walked away.
Oh, no, okay, because I think some people think that. I actually think she heard. I
Really,
think
eh?
that's how I had interpreted the scene. When she came in, I mean, he's crying at the door. You're obviously gonna hear, and that's what I think she heard. I don't think she was avoiding coming home. I think that's the whole point. She's
Ooh,
running away
really,
from the
eh?
feelings of it. She does not want to grieve.
Okay, okay. I would
So
rather it be
that's
that
how
way. Like,
that's how I saw it.
there's more impact there if that's the way it happened. It's really turning away from your partner in that moment and grieving separately as opposed to together. There's a
Yeah.
very specific choice that is made that is far different than me not wanting to go into that house. So I would prefer
Yes.
it, but it wasn't really it was like left up to your interpretation, right?
Oh, because I just totally assumed that because it was loud, it was on purpose, and she did have a reaction. So that's what I thought, because that's why I said like earlier, I felt like, of course it's normal, to not want to be there and pack everything away. That's too brutal. But I think she used
Yeah.
it as a blanket excuse to kind of just not really be there at all. Because in reality, like she has no intention of grieving with TJ, and she won't. And I'm not
Hmm.
sure. Like I know it's part of her whole deal, like she just refuses to. I don't know, but there's a lot there between her and TJ to sort out, and maybe all of that friction they were having was really also to lead up to this breaking point about who they really are to each other. Because unlike before, where he didn't really share his true feelings about things and then was resentful later, this time he very much asked her, "Can
Oh,
you
it was
please be there for
heartbreaking.
me?" And a lot of this process has been about him supporting her, and frankly, a lot of the relationship has been about him supporting her. Like remember, she cheated on him because he wasn't answering the messages.
Yeah.
The mom was like, "He's gone. He's done with you." And she was like, "Fine." And I mean, it was stressful, but like she couldn't wait a day. Like, she was like, give it a couple days. And so I don't know, like looking back through it all, has it really truly been even in terms of Molly being there for TJ in the way that he's been sort of this accessory and along for the ride with Molly and the Davis women?
Okay, but wasn't there, and I'm really pulling out some old memories here. So when they were together when they were super, super young,
Hmm.
didn't he step out on her when they were like teenagers?
Yes.
Like when you look at like certain TV, and this is a soap opera, it's like, do you feel that he's been playing this, like, no, I wouldn't say a background role, but like paying like penance or like for
Maybe.
all, and then always kind of letting her win and all that and being forgiving about what happened with her discretion because he's feeling this guilt from early on.
I mean, they were teenagers, but I'd be really impressed if they actually brought it up. And it turns out Molly's been holding on to this like for all this time. But they never brought it up, right? They never
That's
brought it up, not
true.
even when she cheated. But like, I don't know. I'm really interested in seeing their journey because it's like look, I think that TJ will end up pretty close to Christina.
Me too.
I
Yeah.
think because this is what I thought was weird. It was like they were this trio, they grew up together, and it was always very cordial. And
Hmm.
then out of nowhere, we're learning about TJ's hostility toward Christina. Then we slowly started to learn, oh, it turns out he's, heard one side, but he was always really balanced. So they really did make a thing about his animosity to Christina. I think maybe we have talked about the idea of them ending up together at one
Oh
point.
yeah, we totally have.
So, yes. And something that makes me feel like it's just drama on top of drama on top of drama is the fact that Scott asked Alexis to help him with the Heather case when like she just lost her grandchild and is going through all of this stuff with Christina. Like it really made me feel like a lot's going to be going down at the same time.
A lot will be happening, and sometimes Scott doesn't have like human emotions, so he's so funny to watch.
But he convinced Heather.
He really did, and I was feeling so bad for Heather, and especially when Laura comes in and be like, "Okay, you want to be there forever? You're gonna be there forever. Look at the
I
pictures.
support you in
Bye."
being there forever and never getting out.
Ever
I'm
and
going to send you
ever.
pictures. Do you want pictures instead of the real thing? And she was like, not down, Laura. But anyways, but I love how like Elizabeth was really concerned and worried until she sniffed out a scheme. She's like, I gotta leave. Please let me leave. I don't know what's happening. And she's like, I need to get out of here.
Right? I like the code word.
So good.
Tell Scott Heather's
I'm
in.
I was like, oh no, oh no. Okay, other funny hospital scenes, and I would have to
Yes.
say fave line is Alexis Sonny when he's like, "Let's talk somewhere more private," because she's like, "Did she
Yeah.
ask you to kill Ava?" And I feel like it's a normal thing. A lot of people have asked
Yes, of
Sonny those types of
course.
things whenever they've been emotional. And then when she walks into the chapel, she's like, "This is a perfect place to talk about murder." And
It's amazing. It's just amazing.
and then I love it because like they always talk in code because you don't want to have an incriminating conversation that can come back to bite you. And I loved at one point we should insert whatever euphemism you want right here in terms of like murder. But it was really funny their talk and it's like Sonny gets it and he doesn't because of course he wouldn't want to put a mark on her soul and I agree, like I think at some point but I actually don't know that Christina would feel bad.
I
Like, she
know.
hates her so much that I don't know if her soul would be marked, or she'd be like it'll have, like, a little confetti spot instead of, like, a mark
Like
that
in
Alexis
10,
thinks.
well, right? Like in 10 years from now, Christina will be like, ooh, I did that thing once. And then it'll just be like a passing moment.
Yeah, because it was interesting because I get what she's saying, and I'm like, "Yeah, no, I get it," but then I think to how, like, Christina was with her dad and how quickly she was like, "No, he told me she was arrested," and, like, "I
I
want justice,
know.
justice for all." I was like,
I was like,
"Dude."
damn, girl.
It's funny because it's like they're showing she is her father's daughter in some ways. I'm disgusted, by the way, the amount of times that Ava kept referring to Christina being in a manic phase. I was like,
I
come
know.
on, because it's like they're really twisting the knife on how she's used bipolar against that family.
Yeah.
Morgan with Sonny, and now just kind of using that with Christina. I don't know what Christina is going to do when she actually hears those allegations that she was manic.
I know, right? But like just the way that Christina spoke and when she was with her dad, and like you said, that little lie as soon as her mom came in the room. Was it you like a million years ago that said like we want to see Christina as like the mob daughter?
Yeah,
So like
that
I
was
feel like
me.
we got like a little, yeah. I was like it was like a long time ago before the podcast. I don't know, but yeah, it was kind of like we got a tiny little taste of what that would look like and how good she'd be at lying and having a good poker face.
Well, she's going to be lying about a lot. And this is so confusing, right? Because they're lying about Ava, but she did do bad things and it's not fully true, but nobody's going to believe her. And then there's all this
Right?
history of like, Kristina being scheming and all that, and technically she's doing that now. So I think it's going to be quite twisted and interesting to watch. Something that's also super entertaining is they gave us a little Willow Drew. There's some rando scenes like Nina getting along with Michael, and then
Okay,
Willow
whoa,
and
whoa, I'm gonna
Drew.
stop you right there. Did you
Yeah,
check out the stunning, very sexy outfit that Nina was wearing for her lunch?
I did. I did notice it. I know it's not for Michael.
I know it's not, but it just feels weird.
Oh, because of what we talked about it, what I implied. Yes.
Yes.
Forgot about that. It's like I dropped this bomb, like, oh, this is gonna happen, and then a week later, I'm like, I forget everything. Don't remember a word of what I said. Like sometimes when I listen back and I edit, I'm like, I said that, like just wiped, memory wiped. Oh my gosh, yes, I see what you're saying now. I see what I'm saying now. so so that's interesting. And then Willow is so bad at this in the elevator, but
So
I loved
funny.
like for Nina to be the paragon of like attempts at self-control and just the one just reminding everybody of right and wrong. Like every time she went to try to complain about like she's like when I on the and then she's like like she just kept cutting
It's
herself off and she did
amazing.
so good. But the
Yeah.
scolding, like when they came out, it's like it's really funny because it was so motherly. Like, okay, Willow, you get away now. And then she's like scolding Drew, like, you should know better. Don't do this to her. But then on the other hand, she's like, okay, Drew, let's pretend Willow doesn't exist. Let's go back to you and me. And I want to help you. And I'm like, I feel like you're going to bed him just so that he will leave Willow alone.
Yes and no, because it's so funny because he's the one. I'm not really sure, but it felt like he was the one that was closing in on the space between them. Like she was saying very logical things, and her ultimate goal is Willow, and helping him win helps Willow and her goal.
Yeah,
Truly.
because she's like, we need to get you to DC. I'm like, yes.
Right? And then, but at the very end, when they were kind of really close together and he was staring at her with googly eyes, she just looked at him like, "Wah," and then she walked away, like, why are you looking at me like that? And she
It
made eyes
was
really big
him.
and she walked away. It was him, right?
It was no, it's 100% him. She's not trying to do that, but it will happen though when he
He's
goes to
so
her
hot.
her
He
place.
could be standing beside a wall and he's like flirting with the wall. Like, I don't understand this man.
But he pulls it off. But this is what I mean. I just feel like Nina is being a mom. She 100% is trying to
Yes.
protect Willow. She's scolding him as she should and to be expected given the nature of their relationship. And
Hmm.
there's zero respect on Drew's front regarding that. But it's just strange because when they're together, it's like a bubble. And she forgets how weird it is that like he toys with this idea of her daughter and then she forgets about that when they kind of get flirty. And she's not trying to be like she really is trying to
No, yes.
strategize, but they will end up sleeping together.
And he seems like he's warming up to her. Like he literally just, and that's the thing. Like I'm looking at him, I'm like, you're gross. But at the same time, I'm like, oh my God, but you're so hot.
But he
But you
warms
like
up to her when
literally,
he's with her. Like it's in the moment
yes.
though. But when he's with Willow, he's all in with Willow.
Yeah, he's like, you're my favorite person, like in the world, in the
Yeah.
universe. I love
Like
you. Let's do it in the
he's
elevator.
he's good to like to Nina, but it was so clear in how he's quick to kind of be like, oh, whatever, you can fire if you want. So like it's clear that he has an allegiance to Willow, but he'll like flirt with Nina. It's really weird because, like I said, when Nina and Drew had that confrontation, they came back to a friendly place and they didn't really acknowledge the weirdness of like Nina, Willow, and like Drew. They didn't. It's very compartmentalized.
Yes, it is. Oh my God, we did it. We covered all the things. We talked about all this stuff. I have two very minor observations that you are not allowed to elaborate on.
Okay.
I found it really interesting that Jordan was the one to call Blaze with the news.
Yeah, that was weird.
Right? Okay, and I'm gonna give a star moment to Blaze and Natalia because
Oh
Natalia is
yeah.
showing some growth, and that's pretty significant. And I thought it was really adorable that she ordered her chicken noodle soup.
And then she asked about Kristina and their
I
relationship.
know, like major progress. Love, love, love everything about that.
I'm giving stars to TJ, Molly,
Yes.
Kristina, Jordan, Sonny, Morgan, Jocelyn, Donna,
Yeah.
um,
Willow and Drew for the
Trina,
elevator scene.
Willow,
Nina.
Nina. Nina gets a star.
Dex's apartment, because you missed it.
Dex gets his star. He's a cutie pie. He gets his star for sure.
He
And
really
let
does.
me just throw I'm gonna throw glitter. Not a star, but just a little glitter to like Anna and Case, our resident Ross and Russ.
It's funny when you say glitter because like I completely hate glitter. And you know, if you don't like somebody, you can send them a card and it like pops out full of glitter and lets glitter all over them. That's what it made me think of.
Look, if that's how you deal with your anger, whatever floats your boat. Like it's better than all the murder we've been talking about. So, and my gosh, like when I was listening to like Ava's like crimes, if you will, and I don't know why I'm doing air quotes, but like there was murder. And when
There
I
was
think
so
about
much
like,
murder.
yeah, when I was like, why isn't Kristina more mad with like Nina that she's with Ava? And I'm like, I see why now. Like I see that she's like, so Nina lied a little bit and she took babies, but she did give them back.
She did. She gave
So
Sonny back. She gave the baby back. She gave things back.
she does. She doesn't take away people permanently. And perhaps that's
Mm-mm.
the line Kristina used to measure Nina and Ava. I get it now.
I do. I do too.
And I wanted to just highlight this in terms of like interesting, funny favorite moment is Ava referred to what happened to Christina as a slip and fall, as you and I did last week.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, and a star to Trina.
Yeah. And Heather?
Of course. She's
Yeah.
incredible.
And Elizabeth?
Okay, always.
And Scott?
Half.
Okay. Alexis and Sonny? Scott's hilarious. But
He is
Alexis
so
and Sonny
funny.
in the chapel.
And Jason and all his facial expressions and emotions and his thing with Brick.
Yeah. And the fact that
Oh,
Carla gets to decide where he goes. She's like, no, you
I
babysit
know.
Sonny. And then they're like, are you sure? She's like, yeah, I'm sure. I can drive a car.
I'm a big Carly. um, okay, we did it. We covered all the things. We talked about all of this stuff. Have a
All of this stuff.
yeah, have a fantastic weekend, everybody. That's a wrap. Bye bye bye.
Bye.